Hi everybody, welcome back to the Chasing Psychological Safety video series. So today we wanted to have a conversation with you that is extremely topical at the moment. We're talking to tens of leaders of teams at the moment in all sorts of different organizations in the tech industry and outside of the tech industry about what they're seeing, how they're feeling, and what their reactions are to the next phase, this economic climate that we're currently in. I'd love to say entering, but I think we're pretty deep in it now. So we're talking about what we fear, because that's part of psychological safety. And we wanted to tell you a bit about that and talk to you about that. Not necessarily so that you'll engage with us, particularly by our software, but because we just think it's really important that we have this conversation about what's going to be happening over the next 6 to 12 months related to psychological safety. And that's what we're talking to those leaders about.
Exactly. And some of the things that we are going to be telling you may not come out as sweet and compassionate as we would like them to. That's because it is a very serious matter, and we are firmly of the opinion that if we don't understand it to be as big as it is, we might be missing a few tricks. If not, we might be missing the opportunity to save companies. So essentially what we think we're saying and what we believe is going to happen is we can all agree we're going to be entering a period of really serious economical downturn. Some of the sources out there are speaking about possibly the biggest economical downturn since the Great Depression. So we're looking at a very serious amount of recession, which may take as long as 2 to 3 years to start recovering from, depending on what letter you believe the recovery is going to take. I've spent an enormous amount of time over the last, not enormous, but enormous for me, for researching an economical topic, looking at the various shapes and possibilities in this recession. And it looks like, irrespective of, again, what letter the recovery is going to be looking like, realistically, it's still going to be severely bad. And the one thing we wanted to say to you guys is that if you start cutting down on technology and people, then you are guaranteed to be doing poorly, if not disappear in the next recession. And we know this sounds alarmist, and we know that there is advice out there that asks you to cut costs. The very classical advice whenever anyone enters any difficulties. Ironically, this is absolutely the worst thing to be doing. And there are examples from other recessions where companies who haven't done that, but have, on the contrary, doubled down on investment. For instance, Samsung during 2009, number of others that come to mind, all of them have done better over time, whereas those ones that have cut costs haven't. But that advice does still exist. We are actually sure that you are, and we know for a fact you're engaging with consultants and various strategy advisors that will tell you to focus on cutting costs, do some M&A here and there, and kind of traverse this period, which includes cutting on your people and technology, of course. We think that's disastrous. And the only reason these people are giving you this disastrous advice is because they don't know any better. The models they're looking at are the models of before technology, before digital, before the speed of DevOps. The models they're looking at don't understand the people factor at all. They're still thinking in terms of retention and search. They're not thinking in terms of productivity and performance. And if you listen to that advice, then you are running a very high risk.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a fascinating time in some ways because as Doreen has just said, we've never experienced a recession like this before. We've never experienced a scenario like this before. And, we firmly believe that the world has changed forever in ways that we probably can't even anticipate yet. But one of the things that stays true and is true of the changed world is that if you lose people, that's one thing, and that's incredibly sad. Nobody wants that to happen. It's a reality that's happening to many of us at the moment and our families. However, if the people that remain behind in your organizations are abandoned without any investment, without any care, without any work done on them and the teams that they work in to make them psychologically safe environments, or just environments, teams that feel as if they've been invested in, the second phase will be worse for you and for your organizations. Those people will not be engaged, they won't be healthy, the teams won't be healthy, the quality of the work will be poor, the morale in the organization will be poor, resilience will be extremely low, and all of these are factors of psychological safety. Learning, that intuitive learning that we expect people to do as they go along together, will completely drop off a cliff, and in 6 to 12 months the results could be, to use Joanna's words, disastrous. So I was talking to a client last week who said, I'm still really focused, despite the fact that we're going through a restructure and a significant restructure, on working with this top leadership team anyway, because I want to make sure that they don't, that the whole organization doesn't fall apart behind this restructure. So it couldn't be more important that you continue to focus on those that remain with you.
We believe that, so much so actually that last week in one of our meetings we were joking about we should, just from our view, seeing how we engage with 20, 30 big companies at this time, we could generally write down which ones we think are going to make it unscathed, if not win out of this recession, by their reaction to the topic of psychological safety and by their reaction to their investment in things like developer tools or measuring productivity, which is not something that most organizations were even doing so far, so they wouldn't know when it starts dropping. So by their understanding of how important this period that's coming up, we can then tell whether or not they're going to be around. It would be nice to kind of write them down, bury them in the ground, and look at it again in 3 years and see if we were right or not. For your sake, if you're not going to take care of your people, if you're not going to start on your people practice, if you're not going to invest in technology, and if you're not willing to take psychological safety seriously enough and reduce from what we call your human debt, then let's hope we're wrong. Because if we are right, then it's going to be painful for everyone. So to avoid that, let's attempt to make a change and put psychological safety before other perceived priorities and antiquated advice. We'll talk to you next week. We won't be much more cheerful, but meanwhile, hopefully we'll all be slightly further away from the threat of the virus and more willing to take the reins and put the work in. And stay safe meanwhile, and stay productive, and kick performance butt.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.